Hi everyone, Comic Reviewer here. This time reviewing on Land Before Time 2, The Great Valley Adventure. Now, as you know, The Land Before Time 2, The Great Valley Adventure is meant to be a direct-to-video animated adventure musical film that was directed by Roy Allen Smith, as well as being a direct sequel, as well as being the second installment in the Land Before Time series that was released 6 years after the original film, which would later be made into a sort of animated franchise. So, of course, much like most of Don Bluth's films, you can kind of tell most of his films either got sequels without his involvement, or sometimes they either got dumbed down, or just those that fans didn't really want. And I think The Great Valley Adventure is an okay story, and just sort of setting up the sort of series with Littlefoot, Sarah, and all the others on their own sort of quests and difficult trials throughout the series. So the premise of the film is meant to follow Littlefoot, Sarah, Ducky, Petrie, and Spike, who still live their carefree life in the Great Valley. And we do kind of see how, yeah, Littlefoot and the others do get tired of being treated like children. We kind of see how they have to deal with some dangerous egg nappers known as Ozzy and Scrot. Now, I would say Ozzy and Scrot are kind of like the Goldar and Rio to the series. Like one sort of being the bit more of the brains, while the other one being the bit of the dumb one. And we kind of see how after an egg mix-up, they kind of find one of the eggs they thought was one of Ducky's brothers and sisters, but turns out it's a baby shark tooth known as Chomper. And this is where we kind of see how Littlefoot and the others realize that Chomper isn't awful, and we do kind of see how they now realize, because of what happened with Ozzy and Scrot, we see how two other shark tooths all show up in the valley, leaving for Littlefoot and the others to try to rectify not only their mistakes, but also from Ozzy and Scrot's actions. And I think the film has a bit of a message and a moral that sometimes being a kid means understanding that your parents or grandparents care about you, and that, yeah, sometimes seeing things from a bigger picture means understanding about responsibility and sort of now seeing why your parents always worry for you. And I think for the most part I would say the story's not too bad, because yeah, it's kind of meant to start off the next part of Littlefoot, Sarah, Ducky, Petrie, and Spike's trial about kind of being responsible, as well as understanding that your parents and grandparents do care about you. And I think it's also hinted at that after migrating to the Great Valley, and now sort of referring it as the mysterious beyond, shows that, yeah, the residents now know that after what happened in the first film, they just now refer to it as what their old lives were. And I think for the most part, I think the animation is slightly improved, but again, I think the first film worked a bit more because it was just kind of a realistic setting about sort of growing up, moving on, and accepting the next part of your life. And I think the second film, I would say, still has that element, but yeah, there's still a few musical songs thrown in. I remember putting on one of my PSP the song Eggs, just hearing Jeff Bennett sort of singing in a kind of more villainous way, and hearing Rob Paulsen sort of being the kind of Yes To man. And I think for the most part, I think as a sequel, it's definitely not too bad. And I can kind of see where, yeah, it's gonna start the whole films, and keep in mind that Land Before Time had a loads of these films, all the way to 2016. And I think, yeah, I can definitely see why they wanted to kind of keep doing more and more sequels, trying to kind of milk out the series while it's still a little fresh. But I think as a sequel, it isn't great, but it's not too bad. So I think this film definitely deserves thumbs in the middle. While the story is weaker at places, I can kind of see where it was done with greed, but also with some good intentions. So, Comic Reviewer here, signing out.